All right, we are into the top 16, starting out now with Crabling versus Attackspeedenjoyer for a best of 5 for the Warhammer World Championship. Do have a fancy bracket now. How to best avoid spoilers is to pause the game as soon as we get in. Bam. And then flip to the Photoshop. There you go. So we're going to start on the bottom. By the time I could snapshot this challenge, once we got to the top 16, Crabling and Attackspeedenjoyer had already played, so the tournament organizers updated that. So we're going to get that out of the way so I can get rid of these two blockers, the Bretonnian flag blocking the score and the Dark Elf Warlord blocking the contestant who moved on. But then we will work our way upwards, and I will adjust this Photoshop as we learn winners. I'll move some names, do some snipping, some cropping, some movie magic, and it'll be good all the way up to the finals. Hooray, hooray! We will cast all of them. It will be done. Not a single series will be missed. Let's get on with it. So back to the game, we have Crabling versus Attackspeedenjoyer today. For Crabling, starts out on Norsca, Wulfric the Wanderer with Seafang, buffed Sword of Torgald, and then Hunter of Champions. From your Balefiend of Fire with Burning Head and Fireball. Then some Kurgan Horsemen, some Marauder Horsemen, including the Riders of the Mighty Serpent, Norscan Ice Wolves, and then our front line is made up of Marauders and Marauder Bearmen. Pretty standard Norsca fare at this point. The Famir is a little interesting. On the other side, for the Wood Elves of Attackspeedenjoyer, we have Wild Riders, Dryads, the Wild Hunters of Kurnos, a couple Eternal Guard, and then triple Deepwood Scout with Swift Shiver Shards and a Spell Weaver of Beasts, only Flock of Doom. Wild Rider is going to get a free charge onto some Marauders, as the Norscan front line is easy to pick upon when their flanks are where all the mobility is at. Burning Head goes through a couple Deepwood Scouts. A little bit of damage, not too terribly much. All right. Spilled my beverage. Not a problem. It's fine. What? Am I going to get ants? I mean, probably. Probably going to get ants, but I guess we live with that. Deepwood Scouts trying to get good damage out. Unfortunately for them, their favorite target, Skinwolves, are not around. Skinwolves, low armor, have a little bit of physical resistance that their magic damage can go through. Not as thrilled to shoot at cheap light cavalry. They'll do okay, but Crabling's dodging nicely. Norsca takes the point. And the Wood Elves are continuing to fall back. Unfortunately for them, they're having a hard time getting meaningful damage out. The Burning Head has done more damage to them than they've managed to do back to Norsca in its entirety right now. Crabling's been doing some good dodging, plus the Norscans just heavily outnumber the Wood Elves right now, so Attackspeedenjoyer is trying to find a good charge he can get with his Wild Riders without being overwhelmed. Looks like he is going to overload one flank, sending most of his mobility resources to this left side, leaving his right side open. You can see the Norscans over there thinking about trying to flank him or get in somewhere, but wants to make the most of this moment while he has 4 Wild Riders versus a couple of Kurgan Horsemen and Skirmish Cav. Should be a good win for him. Meanwhile, other Wild Riders try and stop up Wulfric and the Famir Balefiend, but they just lack the damage. They're not the Wild Hunters of Kurnos. As Deepwood Scouts fire up and over. Still into anything they get their hands on. But the Kurgan Horsemen are so far outrunning the Wild Hunters of Kurnos. 86 speed on those guys. Charge bonus trying to get them in range. Meanwhile, on the other side, Wild Riders do catch out a Skirmish Cav, get a lot of damage on it, but then it gets fully swamped in Kurgan Horsemen, Norscan Ice Wolves, and Marauders. So that is going to be a dead Wild Rider very soon. Other Wild Riders still screwing around with the Famir Balefiend, not getting a lot of damage out, and Wulfric did dive the enemy Lord. Wild Riders have to be brought up to peel for her, but then a Burning Head down the line, big damage onto those lightly armored, clumped up cavalry, and the dogs have found the Deepwood Scouts. Deepwood Scouts looks like they shattered off our random Kurgan Horsemen. Wild Riders chase the other ones off the battlefield, so Wild Riders getting pretty good value overall, but Norscan's still feeling good about this situation. More Kurgan Horsemen plow into the back line. Dryads trying to peel for Deepwood Scouts. It's a bit of a mix of each, but the Deepwood Scouts are sheltering themselves in those trees. Proverbial trees, I guess, at this point. Wild Riders catching some of the Skirmish Cav here and there. Crabling's microing them as best he can, but we can see up on the hillside, like, that slipped through because they got killed in their entirety and pushed off the battlefield. Did see a Kurgan Horseman go off, and now a Marauder Horseman is under duress, but distracting a Wild Rider with a basic Marauder Horseman is a great value trade for Norsca. you know, a 550 gold cav distracting a 1,000 gold cav for most of the game is pretty darn good. Bounce power slightly favors Norsca, and I would tend to agree as a Flock of Doom comes out for them. But the frontline fight isn't a guaranteed win, which is not what Norsca's used to, but they barely brought anything. A couple Marauder Bearmen, a couple Marauders, while we had 2 lines, Eternal Guard and then Dryads for the Wood Elves. So the Wood Elf infantry do seem to be actually holding quite steady, which is not what Norsca's used to. Deepwood Scouts, 2 of them are still rallied. 1 is routing, but plenty of HP to come back. And if Crabling overextends, yeah, he's not going to, but if Crabling overextended, his skirmish cav to chase him down, he was just going to get picked off by Wild Riders. So that 3rd Deepwood Scout should be able to come back. Norscan Ice Wolves is going to charge the other Deepwood Scouts, but we have Wild Riders that have just consistently been walking across this backline. It looks like they are going to get attack orders to charge those Norscan Ice Wolves. So that should be a good pickoff for them. Norscan Ice Wolves are elite dogs, but they are still just dogs. The Sea Fang from Wulfric friendly fires his own dogs, hits a little bit of Deepwood Scouts, but he's mostly using it to clear out the Eternal Guard that were keeping him away from his quarry, the Spellweaver Beast. And a follow-up Burning Head hitting 2 Dryads, and then it's going to hit the Eternal Guard. So really good wind spell usage here from Crabling, trying to turn this game back in his favor because Norsca has fallen behind. Their infantry dying off has been brutal, but Wulfric is on the hunt. Hunter of Champions down the Spellweaver Beast, lowering her stats to pretty much nothing as Wild Riders swarm the area to get between Wulfric and the Spellweaver. She is going to rout. Wulfric gets a hit on her anyway, despite all of their efforts to peel. He really is forcing his way through, which is pretty brutal. Where are the Wild Hunters of Kurnos? That's where a lot of the balance of power is. Wild Hunters of Kurnos running through the enemy backline, still very, very healthy considering how far in the game we are, and they are more than capable of taking down Wulfric if they get their hands on him. They can kill anything on this map, honestly. Not a lot that can deal too much damage to them as the Riders of the Mighty Serpent are still kiting. I would like to see the Wild Hunters peel off and just ignore those guys for now. You do need to get some good charges down onto the Marauders, Norscan Ice Wolves. We need someone better than basic Wild Riders to peel for the Spellweaver, clearly. As Deepwood Scouts are getting harassed once again by Marauder Horsemen. The last of the regular Wild Riders is taking a lot of damage, and Norscan Ice Wolves have arrived. Gonna run down that Spellweaver Beast. Again, the Wild Hunters of Kurnos need to get back here. They need to peel for their lord before she dies. Wood Elf leadership hanging by a thread, and if their lord dies, that would be the end of it. The Wild Riders not going to chase down the Norscan Ice Wolves, not going to peel for the Spellweaver, instead going for the counter snipe, trying to just end this game on the offensive rather than the defensive. So they are going to try and snipe out Wulfric. Great surround, good damage. I like this. If you're not going to peel for your lord, I like this. Personally, I would have just brought them back earlier and peeled for her, but, you know, teach their own. Sea Fang right through the area, though. Wild Hunters of Kurnos leadership dips and dips and dips. It goes in the negative. They rout. And it was good damage onto Wulfric, but then those Norscan Ice Wolves could rear charge you, and with the Sea Fang, just beautiful damage out there from Crabling. So, unfortunately, I do think in hindsight, peeling for the Spellweaver Beasts would have been the superior move. Just because Wulfric rear charging you is not as impactful as 2 Norscan Ice Wolves rear charging you as the Wild Hunters of Kurnos. So, yeah, took a lot of damage there. A little bit of a mistake. The Wild Hunters were kept healthy for so long, but they just didn't bring the impact they needed to. That's going to be army losses. Crabling takes game 1. All right, Wulfric, 2,000 value. Famir Balefiend, 2,100 values. Those Sea Fangs and Burning Heads definitely hit their marks. Kurgan Horsemen really struggled to get damage value out. Skirmish Cavalry also, well, no, that one's more mixed. There's some that did good, some that really underperformed. Dogs did very well, so Dogs, Skirmish Cav, Lord, and Hero were most of Crabling's winnings. For Attackspeedenjoyer, his caster did okay. Not a ton of damage value out of those Flocks of Doom. Dryads did pretty well. Deepwood Scouts did very well considering how much pressure they were under. Wild Riders really struggled to give any value. One of them got close to paying for themselves, and the Wild Hunters of Kurnos did fine. GG's, on to game 2. Game 2 is up. Crabling on the Warriors of Chaos versus Attackspeedenjoyer's Bretonnia. No infantry. No infantry, just Knights Errant, Mounted Yeoman Archers. Where did all of his money go? Oh, Hippogriffs, there they are. I'm like, okay, he doesn't have any infantry, but still, those are some cheap knights. Mounted Yeoman Archers aren't that expensive either. Honestly, it still feels like he left money on the table. Where the hell did all of his money go? Pegasus Knights, Knights Errant, Knights of the Realm, Royal Hippogriff Knights, and then Mounted Yeoman Archers. Alberic de Bordelot leading them. Oh, he's like kitted out. That would also be some extra money. Hero Killing Blow, Foe Seeker, Wrath of Manon, Braid of Bordelot. He's got everything. Damsel of Life is on Unicorn, which is also more expensive. Earthblood and the Lore of Life passive. Okay. So his caster's on a relatively expensive mount. Alberic's fully kitted out, and then Hippogriff Knights. That's where all of his money went. On the sides of the Warriors of Chaos, Marauder Horsemen, Skirmish Cav as per usual, Zarthoriel with Final Transmutation and Searing Doom, Marauders, Hellstriders, Aeson the Fallen, Mutilith Vortex Beast ROR, Rotting Riders, Rot Knight, Regiment of Renown, and that is it. A couple very expensive pieces from the Warriors of Chaos they're going to have to provide for. Knights Errant getting caught by Marauders. This full Cav build is going to require a lot of micro. And that is a bit of a mistake from the Bretonnians to start this game out. Knights Errant just getting caught and beaten to death. Knights Errant and Royal Hippogriff Knights looking for a bit of a fight. Earthblood Overcast to try and counter the maelstrom of change that is coming for them. And the Rotting Riders are going to get a side charge onto these Knights Errant, who are taking a lot of damage. The other Knights Errant that got caught by the Marauders are already routing off. They've lost half their HP. So pretty rough start here for the Bretonnians, but they could be turning it around now. Rotting Riders getting charged by the Royal Hippogriff Knights. Rock of Inevitability lowering their melee defense, and Standard Eye increasing the melee defense of the Rotting Riders, so this could get really hairy. A Final Transmutation Overcast is down, and this game is looking dire for the Bretonnians this early on. Wrath of Manon goes through, does a little bit of damage, but the Hippogriff Knights are already going to rout. Alberic is down to half HP, and he is getting attacked by the Mutilith Vortex Beast, the Rotting Riders, and Sartorial. He's taking a lot of damage very quickly. Bounce Power moves swiftly away from Bretonnia, and it is incredibly tough. Mounted Yeomen are peeling back, so are the Knights Errant. The Damsel of Life is also running away as Alberic gets an overcasted Earthblood to try and save him, but the Hippogriff Knights are already shattered. Alberic is routing and stuck on the ground. It's Mutilith Vortex Beast is going to get another hit onto him. Zarthoriel doesn't seem to want to let him get away either. And that is going to be an incredibly quick GG, a less than 3-minute game. Bretonnia gets knocked out. I just don't see it happening. Without the Hippogriffs, with Alberic already shattered, I don't think Pegasus Knights, Knights Errant, and a couple Mounted Yeoman Archers can change the state of this game. A Searing Doom from Crabling in on top of the Maelstrom of Change. Shock damage onto those Knights Errant will probably get them routing, and when they rout, army losses is going to trigger, I bet, because they've just lost so much so quickly. Oh, units holding for now. I guess we're waiting for one more terror rout. There we go. That should do it. Seriously, look at that. That is the most I have seen that bar ever go green without army losses. Attackspeedenjoyer also clearly confused. It's just like, all right, well, I'll call it if army losses isn't going to. That was pretty rough. Rough for Bretonnia there. Sarthoriel got 2,100 damage value in less than 3 minutes. Hellstrider got 1,400 somewhere. Rotting Riders got 1,700. Mutilith Vortex Beast got 1,900. A lot of value there. Alberic only 500. Knights Errant really struggling. Pegasus Knights did okay. Mounted Yeoman Archers, I mean, they were shooting, I guess. But GG's. Crabling takes the series up to 2-0. Attackspeedenjoyer are going to have to mount a hell of a comeback to stay in this tournament. Okay. All right. This is happening again. I don't know why this keeps happening, but it's happening again. For some reason, we switched who's on what side. Attackspeedenjoyer is on the left. Crabling is on the right now. I'm not going to change the scorecard every other game because that would take a long time and be incredibly annoying with the software I have. Copy paste doesn't. Those key commands don't work in the software because those key commands mean other things for like changing volume or tint settings and shit. So I'm not just going to keep typing different names every other game. So whatever. Attackspeedenjoyer is now on the left. If you want this series to continue, you are rooting for the Dark Elves. Supreme Sorceress of Beasts with Flock of Doom, Triple Scourge Runner Chariot, a Feral Manticore, Cold One Knights, Knights of the Ebon Claw, Cold One Dread Knight ROR with another regular Dread Knight and 2 Bleak Swords. On the other side, Bretonnia, again on the red side, but this time it is Crabling. If he wins, the series is over. We have the Green Knight, the Fey Enchantress with Regrowth, Shield of Thorns, and Awakening of the Wood. Interesting. Knights of the Realm, Knights Errant spam, Archers, Pox and Fire mix, and then more Knights of the Realm, Knights Errant. So also going with the incredibly cheap Knights like Attackspeedenjoyer did last game, but instead of Pegasus Knights and Alberic, we have the Fey Enchantress and the Green Knight for his expensive pieces. Green Knight is ghostly, so he has 100% armor piercing damage, and he has frostbite, catching those Scourge Runner chariots and already completely wrecking one of them, taking a whole model out. The rest of the unit is at roughly 2/3 HP and is going to slip away as the Green Knight duels a Manticore. This is probably one of the first things he's done that he normally did in life. I don't think he's fought velociraptors ridden by elves much when he was alive, but as a ghost, he's used to killing Manticores, so just reliving a bit of Gilles Le Breton life there. Coldwood Knight's getting slapped right now by the Knights Errant. Shield of Thorns buffing them up, Lance Formation giving them more charge bonus, and the Fey Enchantress and the Green Knight are going to add in a little bit more damage. Terror out and the Cold Knights away, dealing with that. Comet of Cassandora, the one bound to the Fey Enchantress, is going to hit the Knights, the Ebb and Claw. Awakening of the Wood slows them down to make sure that they don't dodge. Also kind of masks the green circle of the incoming Comet, so that was doubly clever there. I like that a lot. Knights, the Ebb and Claw taking very bad trades so far. Fey Enchantress under attack by the Manticore, but the Green Knight was out searching. I thought he might be going after the Supreme Sorceress of the Beast, but instead, no, he is going to resume his duel with the Manticore that previously evaded him, so he's getting some good slaps in there onto that Dark Elf unit. The Bretonnian archers are moving up, getting slow and steady damage on Coldwood Knights. We can see a massive volley here coming onto them. It's just volume of fire. You have 3 incredibly cheap archers all shooting. None of them are going to do a lot of damage, but all 3 of them together do pretty significant amounts. Dark Elves falling behind on the balance of power a little bit. We still have the Knights of Ebb and Claw bumping and grinding away. Other Coldwood Knights holding the Knights of the Realm at bay. And Peasant Bowman getting charged by Scourge Runner chariots. That's a really good use of Scourge Runner chariots, honestly. You see how committed the enemy cavalry is with your cavs. They can't turn their backs and run, or they'll just get hit in the rear the whole time. So you get your chariots into the back line and take out a bunch of archers. Because the archers are cheap, but in aggregate, they matter, right? If you killed all 4 of these guys, that would be about 1,800 gold value. So that's quite solid. Take it off the map, get a decent win when you're behind on the balance of power. The Fey Enchantress is chasing the Supreme Sorceress of Beasts around. Sorceress of Beasts actually has pretty comparable melee stats, so might want to turn and take that fight, especially if you have Manticore nearby. The Fey Enchantress is honestly overextended if the Dark Elf caster felt like turning and taking the fight with her. But she's not going to for now. Bretonnia's cavalry is suffering in the blob fight. They don't have as much healing as they're used to, maybe with like Earthblood spam or something, but they just have a regrowth caster. And the Dark Elves got their murderous prowess, so they got a full vigor refresh while in the middle of fighting, and generally their cavalry is just better suited to just sitting and fighting enemy cav, whereas the Bretonnians do rely more on getting a charge. Like Knights of the Realm have a charge bonus of 64, melee attack of 24 and 20, while the Cold One Knights 34 and 31 with a charge bonus of 55, so yeah. That is with murderous prowess active, of course. Bounce power shifted in the favor of the Dark Elves. The Dark Elf chariots just sweeping through and taking all of the peasant archers definitely helped this game quite a lot and turn things around. Coldwood Red Knights also doing a great job in the bump and grind team fights. Friggin' 52 melee attack, 42-ish melee defense, depending on what buffs they have active at a certain time. So that's really working out for them. Fey Enchantress throwing her second Comet down on herself, but it looks like Attackspeedenjoyer is going to dodge this one. The Comet hits her and the Green Knight and not much else because they ran away. And then they immediately turn around once again and going to flood those guys. Everybody for Bretonnia is routing right now except for the Fey Enchantress and the Green Knight, that the Fey Enchantress might actually rout soon. Regrowth tried to save her life. It did do a little bit, but she still looks like she's going to rout anyway. And that might trigger army losses at some point. Green Knight is unbreakable, so the Dark Elves will have to kill him no matter what. Army losses are no. I wonder if Crabling surrenders or not. Army losses has officially hit, so I wonder if he thinks the Green Knight can kill everything. I don't think he can, but I could understand why you would want to fight it out. Scourge Runners are low on ammunition. You don't have any source of consistent magic damage from the Dark Elves. You don't have a good spell for sniping them out from the Dark Elves, so I could see why he would want to keep this going, and he is going to try and run down the Spirit Sorceress of the Beast. He catches her, hits her as he swipes by with a Frostbite, and then she tries to get away. Cold One Knight's doing a little bit of peeling. Knights of the Ebb and Claw specifically. Trying to keep the Green Knight locked up, because if he can just Frostbite chase down the Sorceress of the Beast, he could actually kill her off, and then the terror routes in the late game become that much more scary when the Green Knight is fighting you and you have your Lord is Dead debuff. This Green Knight just fell below half HP. There's also no forests for him to hide in, because if he can get to a forest, he can regenerate a little bit. Dark Elves are trying to capture the point just in case this goes crazy long. Knights of the Ebon Claw holding for now. Colder Knights also holding. And a Manticore is thinking about diving in onto the Green Knight. It does look like the Green Knight is toast. It does not seem he can beat all these guys. Considering how poorly this fight has gone against one Cold Knight, there are other ones waiting to take his place. So that's probably going to be GG. I'm just going to fast forward. Green Knight beats up a Manticore. More Cold Knights jump in. They tear her out away. Knights of the Ebon Claw resting for a little bit as Attackspeedenjoyer sends in his other Cold Dread Knights. Green Knight's down to 100 HP and he is dead. All right, Attackspeedenjoyer is on the board. Decent value, good value out of some of his Golden Knights. So decent or good, depending on which Golden Knights. Scourge Run Chariots did well. Manticore about paid for itself, which is solid. So pretty good stuff. For Crabling, Fey Enchantress, not much damage value, but she is a healing caster these days. Gone are the days of Warhammer 2, where she was like a Mortis Engine Draining Lord. Now she's just much more of just a supportive caster. Green Knight did great. Archers really struggled after the Scourge Runners got onto them. Knights Errant did okay. Knights of the Realm did okay, but not amazing. Attack speed takes that game, and now we have ourselves a series. Crabling is back on the left, so now the scorecard is correct. Attackspeedenjoyer on the right. Demons of Chaos versus Norsca. And the Demons of Chaos once again going for their single entity kite heavy style. I haven't seen much of the demons this tournament, but when I do see them, it is this style. Not a lot of rushing being done from the Demons of Chaos these days. Okay, we're on Alpine Ridge. Crabling has an off-center start. He has the Festering Stooges and another Exalted Plaguebearer, 2 Blue Horrors of Tzeentch, Hellforge Bellowers, the Noxbringer, a Herald of Nurgle of Death, the Fate of Buna Spirit Leech, and Doom and Darkness, the Golden Griffin of Theurgy, Shrieking Sky Rays, and that is it. And outside for Norsca, Norscan Warhounds in the Vanguard, including the Beasts of Tashnar, Skin Wolves, Norscan Ice Wolves, Marauder Horsemen, Wulfric the Wanderer with Hunter of Champions and Seafang, a couple Marauders, like literally 2, Marauder Bearmen and a regular Marauder, and then more of the same. So lots of mobility, some skirmish, Norsca's usual fare. We do have a Shaman Sorcerer hiding way in the back with Final Transmutation as his only spell. Okay. Just kind of wants to get the lay of the land before he gets blue fire kited or whatever, but I think now that he sees all there is a Spirit Leech caster, I think he'll probably charge up enough Winds of Magic for a Final Transmutation Overcast, and then he'll come out to party. He is on foot, so it'll take him quite a while to walk over, which is why I think he'll need to start walking once he has the Winds of Magic. You don't want to wait too long, because otherwise your army's going to take significant damage, and then he'll try and join the fight, get off a Final Transmutation Overcast, and then have to wait for the entire cooldown, then cast it again. That's if you like wait a crazy long time. So I think once he has one, he'll have to move up and start doing that, because by the time he gets here, he'll have enough Winds of Magic maybe for another one undercast. Takes a long time to walk. Yeah, he's already starting to walk. Makes sense. Makes sense. I like it. Seems smart. Seems smart because I said it. I said it, so it's smart. So thank you for doing the smart thing that I said to do. This I like a lot. The Norskins are just going to go get into melee, realizing the enemy has very limited melee potential, and they're just trying to kite you. He is just going to force a fight where he can get one, get some damage out, force the kite tools to run away, and just get rid of any potential capture weight you have in the late game or areas for your enemy to run away to. We are getting a little bit blobbed up on certain areas, so I don't love all of that. Did get hit with a Searing Doom down on some dogs. Now the Skin Wolves are peeling back. Skirmish Cavalry have moved up. They're getting some decent damage out, though. They are actually all focusing down the Festering Stooges with their ammunition. Interesting. Okay. I don't disagree. I don't agree or disagree. It's just interesting. You don't often think of using your Skirmish Cav on the front line. They're demons. So they're not armored or shielded. I guess it's fine. Skin Wolves getting Doom and Darkness to try and get them to tear out away as Wulfric dives in with other Skin Wolves onto Blue Horrors. Damage value-wise, it's rough. Festering Stooges missing about a third of their HP. Other Exalted Plaguebearer down to half. Blue Horrors. One is barely damaged at all. The other one's taken a little bit. And we do have a lot of routing going on from Norsca as the Marauder Horsemen have backed off. The Shaman is still trying to get in range of this, and Wolfric's diving deep in. Looks like for now he's going for the Shrieking Skyrays. I don't know if he turns on the Herald of Nurgle. Yeah, he is. He's going to turn on the Herald of Nurgle. Hellforge Bellowers stuck in a bunch of Skin Wolves. That is a lot of mass, and it cannot get out. It does regenerate and get more ammunition when melee, but there's only so much you can do about that. Another Searing Doom is down from the Golden Griffin, but that actually seems to be more friendly fire damage than damage onto Wolfric or anything. Wolfric gets pushed away by the Golden Griffin, hit with a Spirit Leech as well. Skirmish Cavalry still firing in wherever they can find a hold, as the Festering Stooges launch their grenades back into the Skin Wolves, pushing them away from the Noxbringer and the Blue Horrors. Hellforge Bellowers at half HP, still regenerating up slowly. Exalted Plague Bearers and Blue Horrors on that front line starting to attrition out. The ones in the back line are good HP-wise, but their leadership is starting to go down, and the Herald of Nurgle is actually under a lot of pressure from Skin Wolves and Wolfric. Attackspeedenjoyer piles more Skin Wolves in here, and no way! The Herald of Nurgle's leadership goes negative enough that he started demonic instability crumbling for a little bit. Big damage from the Noxbringer and the Hellforge Bellowers onto the Marauder Horsemen is starting to take its toll. It forces some of them away with a tear out. The other ones are just going to retreat, but they're trying to get an angle in to get a couple little javelin throws onto that Herald of Nurgle and finish him off. Speaking of which, that I mentioned this at the start of the game, and this is why. This Shaman has been running this whole time, and he still hasn't gotten here. His final transmutations are going to be instrumental for this blob fight that has shown up, so he desperately wants to get in range and throw down a big old final transmutation right here, but he's only just arrived. He definitely has the Winds of Magic, so I think we're going to see two in rapid succession, but that's a beautiful cast. Locust of Fecundity trying to heal all of the Herald of Nurgle's forces, but that final transmutation overcast is going to whittle him down. We saw his leadership was already flagging earlier. Wolfric's is also going down, so it is a race. Who can kill the other Lord first? Final transmutation on a demonic Lord or Spirit Leech onto a mortal one. The final transmutation has worn off, and the Herald of Nurgle technically survived. We need that next cast soon. Meanwhile, he's waiting for another Spirit Leech to hit Wolfric. Wolfric, can your leadership hold? Because it would definitely take two Spirit Leeches to kill you. Oh no! Massive mistake from Crabling. He got greedy. His Lord was insanely low, and he used the Doom and Darkness overcast on the blob fight, but it ends up killing his Lord with the overcast damage, and definitely not worth it. Overplaying his hand, relying on that overcast to not deal any damage. Hellforge Bellower is very close to demonic instability crumbling. In fact, it's just wavering in and out of it. Festering Stooge is still holding for now, but all the other infantry of the Demons of Chaos are gone. Norsca probably wants to slow this game down a little bit, regenerate with their Skin Wolves. Wolfric's just running. He's running back to the point. He only has 300 HP, so he just wants to be a leadership beacon for his team. Hellforge Bellowers is gone. The Noxbringer's down to 5 ammunition, so it is going to quickly turn into a melee brawl for the Demons of Chaos. The Festering Stooges have also died off. The only thing I'm worried about now is Skin Wolves cycle routing themselves into Shattering, because they have routed a lot, so I hope they're being cautious. There's that second final transmutation, as we mentioned. They're going to be pretty back-to-back since it took the Shaman so long to even get here, but it seems like it's going to be sufficient. The Noxbringer is thinking about demonic instability crumbling. Army losses is going to take the demons out, and Attackspeedenjoyer takes us to game 5. All right, let's go. Let's do it. Game 5 time. That final transmutation caster, I wonder what value he got. Remember, he only cast 1 overcast and 1 undercast final trans. Still got 1700 value. Yeah. I was curious if he could get a good one onto that many expensive single entities, but it looks like he did fine. Skin Wolves got pretty good value. Norsca and Ice Wolves did okay. Skirmish Cav struggled a bit to get any value out. For Crabling, his Lord did all right. Exalted Plague Bearers did pretty well. Shrieking Skyrays did very well. Golden Griffin also did very well. Noxbringer and the Hellforge Bellowers struggled to get their value back, though. GG's going to game 5. Into the final game. Attackspeedenjoyer once again on the left. Crabling on the right. Sorry for the confusion, but it is what it is. Attackspeedenjoyer on the Beastmen, Crabling on the Wood Elves. All right, let's go. Dirthu it up. Dirthin' the Dirthu. Oh, wow. All right, Vanguard. I gotta pause it real quick. So for the Beastmen frontline, we have Zongors and Ungor Spearman herds, Razorgore chariots, Chaos Warhounds, and Centigores. We have 2 Bestgore herds in the back, and Malagor Dark Omen with just Flock of Doom. On the other side for the Wood Elves, a lot of mobility again with Durthu. Durthu with his Manticore summon. And then Flock of Doom, Glade Riders with Hagbane Tips, Dryads, the Lost Sylvan Knights, Regiment of Renown, Great Stag Knights because they're ghosts and spooky. And then Wraith's Frozen Heart with Dryad frontline. Okay. Both sides doing a bit of Vanguard stuff. The Beastmen, I wonder if they get the worst of it just because half of their forces are nowhere near the fight happening while the whole Wood Elf force happens to be here. The Wood Elf's falling back at first because they don't want their skirmish cab to be stuck in melee, but I would not be shocked if they start cycle charging these Zongors before the rest of the Beastmen forces can show up. I do honestly think that would also be a good decision, but they're a little slow on the draw. Honestly, we have a couple AFK cavalry that should be moving, should be charging. If you're not going to charge, you need to back off, right? You need to do something, but there they go. But they almost just walked their way into getting in melee with Zongors. Razorgore Chariot's going to have to back off. Messing around with these Frostbite armor-piercing knights is not going to go well for those heavily armored chariots, and they do start to try and fall back now. They are significantly slowed down by the Lost Sylvan Knights, and Bestigore's coming over to maybe offer a little bit of peel. Their armor-piercing is going to be wasted against Lost Sylvan Knights, but still, just generally, Ghost Knights don't love to sit in elite infantry of any kind, so they will back off indeed. Durthu and the Dryads are more than capable of pushing away the Zongor front line, and Malagor dives in the back with his Centaurs. But the Centaurs get wrapped up by Crabling's forces, Sisters of the Thorn and Wild Riders, sandwiching them in, taking that Centaur out nice and easy as other Zongors continue to push into the woods and harass the Wood Elves. One of the few matchups where Wood Elves being in the trees isn't much of an advantage. Beastmen, a lot of their units function just as well in the trees as without, with a lot of Woodsman trait going on between both rosters. And a Flock of Doom is down from Malagor onto Wild Riders. Zongor stuck fighting it out in the trees as Dryads come after them. Bounce power is in the Wood Elves' favor as we have some more dogs routing already. Razorgore herds have taken decent damage. Durthu wrecked the front line, but there are Bestigors around. Looks like for a moment they were fighting Durthu, now they're moving on to fight Dryads. The Wild Hunters of Kurnos pull back. Oh, Lost Sylvan Knight, sorry. Whenever I see a purple Wood Elf banner with that little antelope thing, the little elk, there we go. The elk icon, I just assume it's the Wild Hunters. Centaurs again take a ton of damage, and Malagor dives straight into the middle of the Lost Sylvan Knights. He is a very tanky boy, just being teeny tiny and super fast, but sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. I could see this Lost Sylvan Knights just one-shotting him, but it's not going to be that way today. Nice Flock of Doom from Attackspeedenjoyer trying to whittle down these Wood Elf forces as the Lost Sylvan Knights do take a significant amount of damage, and there's no healing for them. No life caster this time. In the woods, Bestigors not saturating in as much as the Beastmen would like. A couple Wood Elves got stuck in their unit, and now they're busy like all trying to kill those couple models rather than chasing off the overall force. Bounce power is still bad for the Beastmen. It's mostly in the Wood Elf cavalry, it seems. We still have healthy Wild Riders, Sister Thorn, decent HP. Lost Sylvan Knight's going to get a downhill charge on Razorgore herds, and of course there's always the Durthu problem. In the background of the fight, it's just a full health Durthu to deal with. But as with most Durthu games, the Beastmen are going to try and kill everything that's not Durthu and then turn and fight Durthu later. So there they go. Zongors and Bestigors still trying to wrap up the last of the infantry in the trees. Ungor Spearman herds have now surrounded Durthu to try and hit him with their anti-large. And the Wood Elves are just kiting around, trying to take out any remaining mobility pieces so they just have free reign of the map. Infantry can't catch them. They're going to kill off the last Centaurs, run off the last of the dogs. Razorgore chariots, meanwhile, in the trees, messing around with Dryads. And, you know, they're running them over. Those pigs got some armor piercing. They got some tusks. They'll be all right. Durthu still losing HP slowly. The Ungor Spearman herds, but slowly is the key word there. Only lost about 2,000 of his 10,000. As the Wood Elves take the mobility, and they're going to take the point with it. Beastmen are all in the trees now. As a Flock of Doom from Malagor hits the Race of the Frozen Heart. Durthu comes over and wants to say hello. Wants to chase the Beastmen around. Is going to terror out their souls pretty soon. I think the Wood Elves are going to wait for the Beastmen to come out of the trees so they can get more even charges. Woodsman just means they don't take penalties, but Doesn't mean it's great for them to fight in the woods when they don't have to. Rather charge infantry out in the open. As Durthu wanders through the woods, harassing the Beastmen. The Wood Elves have the point now, so they're more than happy to sit in the back, recover some of their lost stamina, cycle charge the infantry where it is applicable, and if the Beastmen want to continue to sit in the woods, they can sit in the woods with the giant angry tree. If they wish. While Sylvan Knights prancing about. And it looked like the Wood Elves were flirting with the idea of cycle charging, but when the Beastmen remained in the trees, they just discarded it and backed off. Durthu's marching towards the rest of the army. Razorgore chariots are running off the last of the Dryads. Want to get rid of those guys before coming out of the trees, apparently. I guess we have one Dryad outside the tree. That's incredibly damaged. Beastmen still have some pretty healthy infantry. And Bestigor herds can do some damage to Durthu in the late game. I mean, they do have decent melee attack. Overcasted Flock of Doom plus a Sword of Daith, getting some good damage down onto the Bestigor herds. Bestigor herds pull it away from the rest of their companions. That's fine. While Sylvan Knights cycle charging as best they can with some Wild Rider help. Bestigor herds still take a lot of damage on those impacts, even with their 95 armor. Just getting knocked around. While Sylvan Knights are back in. And so are Sisters of the Thorn. And the Lost Sylvan Knights do have Terror. Bestigor's the only ones here with immune to Psychology. The Zongors are going to retreat. Not a full route though, just a little terror route, just a little snippet. Sisters of the Thorn thinking about routing as well, but they do manage to rally their leadership. And Malagor is hovering nearby, making sure his troops stay focused. Don't rout away, don't run. Some Bestigors look like they're trying to ignore Durthu, and Durthu is busy distracting them as other Zongors are going to push back the last of the Dryads this time. I meant that for real. We do have Razorgore herds off in Nowheresville. They do need to return to the fight. As wow, some Chaos Warhounds came out of the woodwork. Managed to rout off one of the Wood Elf skirmish cav. Bounce power is roughly 50-50. Still a slight edge for the Wood Elves, but very, very close to even as the Lost Sylvan Knights. Elite Regiment of Renown status does keep their leadership nice and high, but their stats are getting pretty low, less than 1,000 HP for them. Durthu summons a Manticore for a late game extra terror piece that can move significantly faster than him. If it flies down and rear charges some of these engagements, it could cause a big rout. Wild Riders getting chewed up by Bestigors with Malagor diving in behind them, however, is a little difficult. And in goes the Manticore. It's actually trying to snipe Malagor himself, and it does get a very brutal charge attack on its way in. Does manage to hit him. Malagor's at roughly half HP. Overcasted Flock of Doom from both sides, it appears. Undercast from Malagor, overcast from Durthu, but Durthu's Flock of Doom plus his presence is routing off a lot of Beastmen. Malagor is stuck on the ground. He is going to tear out, and just like that, the bounce power turns heavily away from the Beastmen. It was close, it was close, it was close, and then it was not. Last of the Bestigors hold for now against Sisters of the Thorn. The Manticore summon will eventually fade away, but I think the back of the Beastmen has been broken. They just don't have enough HP left. Even if the Bestigors get onto Durthu in the late game, spamming out Flocks of Doom, he's just going to kill them off. They're too low. They're too low. Wild Riders thinking about charging in. Running around, looking for a way to end this game. Malagor does rally. The Manticore only has 15 seconds of life left. The Wild Riders do get a little charge on the Razorgore chariots, but doesn't rout them just yet. Zongor is running around, still trying to find a fight. Probably against Lost Sylvan Knights be their favorite. 200 HP on them, heavily relying on physical resistance, which the Zongors bypass with their magic damage, of course. Manticore has faded, and Malagor paths back to the main fight. For the Wood Elves, it's quickly becoming just Durthu, but just Durthu is plenty, in my opinion. Wild Riders fighting to the last against the Razorgore chariots might win, but then they will leave very little behind with them. Quick Flock of Doom down from Malagor on his way in. It was overcast to do good damage to those last Wild Riders and get rid of those. And 1 second. All right, we're back in. Sometimes real life calls, man. Grace needed assistance. But we're back with Durthu and the boys. Lost Sylvan Knights, very close to dead. Their leadership is fine, but they're down to 43 HP and they're fighting on top of magic damage dealing Zongor. So yeah, they are just going to get murdered. Malagor dives the last Glade Riders and pushes them away. And Malagor is fast enough to hopefully chase some of these Wood Elf Cav off the battlefield, or as soon as they return, get a rear charge on him and just get him to keep routing. Again, though, I don't know how Attackspeedenjoyer is going to turn this game around because he's just so low on HP. His spears are very low, his bestigors are very low, some of them are even shattering off, so he's lacking significant damage to kill the Durthu. It is game 5 of a tournament, though, and his tournament life is on the line, so he's going to scrap it out to the very end, it appears. Malagor and the Razorgore Chariot are busy chasing off those Wood Elf cavalry pieces, making sure they don't get a rear charge on his forces or anything. He is trying to capture the point, but the Young Spearman Herd is going to rout in the face of Durthu and not take the point back from the Wood Elves. Glade Riders with Hagbane tips, no ammunition, no HP, very little leadership, kind of swerving between the Beastmen infantry units to get back to Durthu, raise a little more HP. Sorry, leadership. And they are going to charge the Bestigor herds and just force the Bestigors to turn around and fight Durthu. And they don't actually have immune to psychology. I must have been fooled. That must have been from Primal Fury. So, yeah, even the Bestigors don't have immune to psychology in this late game, so they're going to tear out away from Durthu all the time. Okay, Razorgore Chariots, just making sure those Glade Riders go off. Malagor is back to provide his leadership. The Beastmen are setting up for one final charge as Glade Riders. I do see a couple of their horses falling. It looks like the Bestigors got their hands on them for a little bit, and that did not fare well for the Glade Riders. Flock of Doom might honestly just shatter them. It is going to rout them with some decent damage. Zongor is routing away in the meantime. Malagor, non-armor piercing weapon strength. Not much you can do against Durthu. Zongor's falling back away from the big tree. I love how no one's trying to engage him directly, but they're just running so close to him that it's a little risky. Malagor is coming back to the fight now. This is it. This is it. Attack speed's trying to put his tootsies on the edge of the point enough to capture it. Durthu catches up to the Younger Spearman herds, terror routs them, doesn't actually get a real rout. He does catch the Zongors, though, thumps them, and then starts running over towards the other Beastmen. So attack speed, I believe what he's maybe trying to do is capture the point and then play footsie with Durthu for the rest of the game. And it's like, you can't out-capture my infantry, but I'm just going to run away whenever you get close to them, and a different one is going to put their toes on the point, so you can't capture it. But the first thing he has to do is take it from Durthu to play the footsie strategy, and Durthu is doing a pretty darn good job of holding on to it. 100 seconds left before the Wood Elves just win. Durthu is going to force you to fight him. Putting your tootsies on the point is nice, but eventually Durthu's living on the points. You're going to have to take it. I wonder if he's holding on to a Manticore summon. I don't know what his Winds of Magic situation is looking like 13 minutes in this game. He might just be out of Winds of Magic, which is reasonable, but just saying, if he had a late game Manticore, that would be pretty epic. 1 minute left for the Beastmen before they just lose. Attackspeedenjoyer is really trying to capture this with his tippy toes. And he's got it. The timer is no longer against the Beastmen, he said. Wow, that has been full green forever. There we go. Timer is no longer against the Beastmen. It's working for them. Durthu's got to find a way to kill some of these guys and get some army losses going. Otherwise, he's going to lose off of Tiptoe's dancing. That's just what he's doing. He's going to do the exact same thing he just did to Durthu. He's just going to put his tippy toes on the point to now keep it rather than take it. And Durthu doesn't have the capture weight, but he also doesn't have the speed to catch anybody. That's the idea, anyway. Razorgore Chariots are back. Very wounded. And I checked this earlier. Durthu is officially the last thing for the Wood Elves that's on the battlefield. There's no one routing left that could come back and help him in a weird late game rear charge. Dorothy's going to catch those Ongors, though. Does get through their barriers and shatters them. Big loss for the Beastmen. They need all of their wounded forces right now, like we said, to keep doing the dance with Dorothy. You need multiple players, but that one Zongor is going to shatter off in a big win for the Wood Elves. Can the Beastmen last 9 more minutes? Seems difficult as Dorothy catches another Zongor. Takes out their barriers, does a little bit of HP damage, but then they get away. Other Zongor's running for it. Crabling's Durthu continues to patrol the point, threatening to take it back if left alone. Ongor Spearman Herds terror route on sight of Durthu walking at them, and turns into a real route, so that gets them even closer to shattering. Another one terror routes just from Durthu looking at them. That one shouldn't be a real route. They have plenty of leadership. Another problem is army losses. If Durthu shatters enough stuff, he'll just army loss the rest. Even if Attackspeedenjoyer is doing a good job with Little Dance, army losses could just call it against him. If he plays this perfectly, his strategy is actually quite sound, and he could win off of it. I just don't know if he's going to be able to play it perfectly. Ongor Spearman Herds charge back in. They do get into combat with Durthu briefly, take a little bit of damage, and then run away. Durthu made some progress on recapturing that point, but not enough as the Beastmen are starting to take it back. Little bits by little bits. Durthu continuing to Benny Hill around. Almost caught the Bestigors, but they do walk away, and the Razorgore chariots are back, sitting on the point. Very low capture weight for them, but some is some, and they're fast, but not fast enough. Asleep at the wheel, the Razorgores take a nasty shot. They're gonna tear out. Is that the straw that broke the camel's back? He also attacks the Ongor Spearman Herd, so he gets 2 attacks off that he probably shouldn't have been able to. One of the Spearmen shatters. Razorgore Chariot barely hanging in there, but Durthu catches another Spearman who also shatters, and a sudden disaster for the Beastmen. One mistake led into another, and all of a sudden 2 Spearman Herds were shattered off by Durthu. Durthu is recapturing this point. The Beastmen have less members to put on the edges of the point. Durthu might capture it, and if he does, the Beastmen can't possibly take it back. It took him so long to get it when he had 6 infantry units. Now he's down to 5, and sorry, down to 3. And that'll take a long time. It'll take longer than 40 seconds to retake that point. Bestigor's running away. They get caught by Durthu. They terror out and trigger the army losses. It was a noble effort from Attackspeedenjoyer. You may not like dancing around the points and stuff, but you know, Game 5, tournament life is on the line. It's the resources you have. Crabling was on the right side, so Crabling did win the series 3-2. Attackspeedenjoyer gave it a good go, took Crabling to 5 games, but it was not enough in the end. Zongors mixed value. Bestigors struggled a little bit. Centaurs struggled a little bit. Razorgore Chariots did very nicely, and Malagor did a great job. Some Spearman Herds got some good value too. For Crabling, Durthu won the whole game for them. Dryads mixed value. Wild Riders mixed. Lost Sylvan Knights did okay. Skirmish Cav did okay. Sisterthorn struggled a little bit. That is going to be GG. And to pull up the bracket for you nice people, I can delete this now that we all know it is Crabling who has advanced to the top 8. See you in the next video. Roar. Subscribe, yes, yes.